Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday and welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Monday, the 4th of November. I'm Derek Clark and I'm joined by the two J's. Joshua Barry joins us. How's it going, Joshua?
Didn't know what you were going to say there, but yeah, we'll take that. Fine, thanks. You?
Yeah, all good. Johnny McFarlane also joins us on this lovely morning. How is it going, Johnny?
Good. Glad to be back with the OG. Always nice to be called up and brought in. Thought I was going to have a very, very difficult morning, but second half it changed things around pretty much, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a proverbial game of two halves yesterday at Hampden. It's fair to say Rangers pretty much same old that first half. We wanted to see an upbeat, vibrant Rangers. It wasn't to be, missing opportunities in front of goal, as is the norm. And a defensive calamity as Andy Halliday, of all people, knocked Motherwell ahead before half-time. Rangers came out and the Rangers fans got a reaction, of course. Well-worked goal from Cyril Dessers, who I'm sure we'll discuss at length on today's show. Finishing off a neat move from Václav Černý, who was good, and Connor Barron, who was good as well yesterday. And then goal number 2, the decisive goal, coming from Nadim Bayrami. Bit of fortune with a deflection over the goalkeeper, but again, good pass to be picked out by Václav Černý, and Rangers would go on and secure their place in next month's League Cup final. That will take place on the 15th of December against Celtic. The kickoff time, I'm not entirely sure what that will be just yet, but Joshua, you were at Hampden for us yesterday. What do you make of it all?
We summed it up pretty well. You've been waiting since yesterday to say proverbial game of two halves.
Yes.
Of that I'm sure. But no, I thought that the big talking point from the game, what it spins on, is those substitutions in the second half. You know, to an outsider, Derek, taking off your number 9 who's just scored a goal to get you back into a game, and obviously your captain. Might seem like a big decision. In isolation of that game, it was definitely the right one. I mean, how many games in the last 9 years have Rangers how many games have there been where Rangers have been chasing a goal when they needed a winner and they've taken off James Tavernier? I mean, you're talking, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but single figures. And the fact that it was the right decision, I think, is indicative of what this game represents for Clement. Clement said after something along the lines, Derek, of this can be a game, an afternoon that we look back on, because Rangers did fight. They did, that wasn't a team that wasn't playing for their manager. That wasn't a team that totally chucked in the towel. It was a team in the first half that I think came across similar issues with this system, which we can discuss. And then short for me, Derek, if you gave Motherwell the option of playing the Rangers team that ended the game or started the game, I think they'd rather face the Rangers team that started the game. That's not just down to quality, but I think the team that ended the game, largely, I think, down to what Danilo gives you up there. It's more unpredictable. You don't know if players are going to spin in short or come in behind. The Rangers team that started was too predictable and has materialised. Although, yes, it was a really poor moment of defending that led to Andy Halliday scoring that goal. Rangers didn't, I think, create that much outside of, the Dessers chance as a shot that is then deflected into his path. In the second half, that goal that they scored with the rotation on the right-hand side was the type of goal against a low block that we've not seen much of from Clement's side this season, but it was a really well-worked goal. A number of players, probably led by Václav Černý, up their performance levels has improved. And I think those two substitutions, putting Dujon Sterling in the position where that is his position, yet we've never seen him play there. That recovery run in just about extra time, I thought it was again indicative of what he can bring to that role. And Danilo, I thought, just totally improved that front four for a number of reasons. But if you were to summarise it, he was unpredictable. Motherwell had to react to what he was going to do. It was more difficult to defend against. I think Clement got that big decision right by replacing those two players. And the question is, especially Derek ahead of that Old Firm Cup final next month, what does he do next? And does this change his mind about his strongest starting 11?
Yeah, I couldn't believe my eyes when Dujon Sterling came on and actually played at right back, which is why he was brought to the club in the first place. But I liked him there, and I want to see more of him there. Whether that will happen on Thursday remains to be seen. Jonny, it was a game of two halves. Rangers have to improve massively low if they want to retain this trophy, do they not?
They do, but the level of improvement in that second half was stark, Derek. It was one of the best Rangers performances I've seen in quite a long time. Now, listen, that gets thrown about, but it really was merited. I thought second half, Rangers looked full of aggression, powerful, confident, threatening, and it all hinged on the substitutions. Now, listen, I've been a big defender of James Tavernier on here. I think over the course of his nearly 10 years at Rangers, he's been a fantastic player. But in 2024, he's been absolutely dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. There's no defending it anymore. You have to make a change. I don't know if there's something going on with the senior players at Rangers. I thought the optics of what we saw on the TV cameras, we don't know what they were talking about, but Tavernier, Dessers, Proper all together, looking like they were very unhappy and gesturing towards the pitch, looked terrible. And perhaps there's something there, I don't know. But listen, he needs to get these young guys in the team. Sterling, physicality, power. Casemiro, physicality, power. You look at Danilo, it's the movement, it's the pace, it's the intelligence. And it just made massive gains come that second half when those changes were made. I think Diamandi as well was an improvement on Tom Lawrence. Again, Diamandi is a player that I've criticised quite heavily, but I just think Tom Lawrence, certain games, yes, I can see what he brings, but when the going gets tough, I think Tom Lawrence too often goes into hiding or doesn't get involved, and they look almost like a man down. I like what he brings in terms of his ability to ping one in from 30 yards, which no one else really has. Tom Lawrence has that. He's a great finisher. But in terms of these young lads, if you're to play that team that finished the game, and you bring Cortez in at the left, and you pull back Barami into the number 10 position, all of a sudden you've got a very exciting, dynamic young team there. Now, it's keeping them fit, but for me, they were just quite interesting wee chinks of light all of a sudden after a period of real darkness, and looking at Clement and thinking, you know, he's on his way out. There's no way he can turn this round. I still think it's going to be massively difficult for the manager. But I don't know about you two, but I just kind of felt like that second half, maybe, just maybe, the penny might be dropping for the manager.
Well, it takes a brave man. He has to be brave and drop James Tavernier. I think that there's no two ways about that one. I know he said he's able to play 60 games physically in his pre-match press conference, not at Rangers anymore, maybe at a team at a lesser level, but his time at Rangers for me is up. I don't know if you guys agree with that. It's actually sad seeing the demise of him, but I would rather have Dujon Sterling in there. He has been someone that has been injury plagued since he's arrived at the club, but he has to be the first choice right back going forward. And Cyril Dess is another one, Jonny. I know he got his goal yesterday. Hallelujah. He found the back of the net, but he just too often loses possession. He's too clumsy on the ball, moves break down. Rangers should have been up early doors by playing through Nadim Bayrami. He somehow managed to play the ball to miss that open goal, although I think Rangers may have had a penalty shout. He was taken out as he struck that ball, so I'm a bit surprised why it never went to VAR. But Danilo is, like you say, Joshua, massive upgrade already. As I touched on, similarly to Sterling, it's just about keeping him fit. But you can see the difference with your own eyes immediately as a comment came in just a few moments ago. That second goal occurs thanks in part to Danilo dragging the away.
Yeah, definitely, and it's unpredictable because if you look at the opportunity he'd created a few moments before for Václav Černý, where he dropped into the space, and Černý, I think it was the one that was just tipped around the post, was it, where they played that kind of 1-2 inside the box. Suddenly, if you're a Motherwell defender, you don't know if Danilo's going to turn you or if he's going to play in the space ahead of you. Whereas I think, contrastingly with Dessers, and there's a lot of opportunity moments in the first half, and that show this. And Derek, we speak about this honestly, I think every single game that Rangers play away from home. Dessers isn't a striker for all occasions. He's not really a link-up player. Certainly that's not his natural game. You think of a game like Dundee United away. And that, I think, leaves Rangers with a lack of options. If you look at the team that started the game, you've got Czerny, we'll speak about him, I'm sure, really came onto a game, looks better with more runners around him, more dynamism around him when he's trying to move in on that left foot. But if you take Czerny, Bayrami, they're both relatively predictable in those positions that they started the game within. When Czerny, for example, doesn't have an overlapping fullback, you know they always want to cut inside. They don't want to hit the byline. They don't really want to be isolated out wide. They want to be moving in field and ultimately playing in space as they were for that winning goal. Tom Lawrence isn't really someone who's going to run beyond or make up for the legs that Dessers doesn't have in that number 10 position. And I agree with Jonny. I think in certain games at home, when Rangers have the territory, he's still going to have to make an impact this season. But Diomande, without being great, was an upgrade. And again, I just think gives you more variety in what he does. And Dessers, we've already discussed. Danilo's a player who has a lot more to his, just a lot more in his game, I think, in terms of variety than Dessers. So suddenly, if you're a Motherwell defender, I think even if you just take Danilo in isolation, the unpredictability of what he's going to do creates spaces in a lot of different areas. And if you look at the team that Rangers started with, I just think it's more predictable. There's less fires to put out if you want. If you're an opposition defender, there's less things to consider. Whereas if you look at that first half, even the Rangers starting 11, how many players really can beat their man 1v1 outside the Chefty? Not many. Now, if you put Dujon Sterling in there, who I think, as you say, at right back, we might see a little bit more overlapping as well as moving inside the pitch. Bayrami and Czerny are both helped by the movement and the link-up that Danilo offers in there. Diomande played quite close to the left-hand side in the second half. I don't think he's a natural number 10, but I think he's a better player than Tom Lawrence. And as Jonny rightly says, it's just a younger, more dynamic team. The reason that there's maybe a little bit more optimism coming out of that game is because people can see, right, if that team plays together for a couple of months, maybe things can turn a little bit, maybe things can click. If you look at Clement's football, it's about big spaces. He always speaks about duels. I don't think he's that bothered with possession. If you're talking really simplistically, you want as many 1v1 players in there, as many players who can dominate big spaces, who can win duels as possible. I mean, look at Chefty compared to someone like Barisic in that system. Just a much better natural fit. And if you replace that across the board, then I think the football starts to look better. Yes, Clement hasn't really had the players to do that, arguably, this season up until now. But as Jonny says, he does now. And the big decision for him is not will Tavernier Dessers play a part this season moving forward, because of course they will. They have to, if you even just look at the squad size. But if you look ahead to those big games, the team that finished that game yesterday surely has to have a pretty strong case for starting in next month's Old Firm Cup final, for example.
JFD does look better than Barisic sometimes, but that defending at the goal was
it was
Barisic-esque.
But it's probably his first really bad defensive moment, and we're into November. So I don't think he saw Halliday. I mean, Tavernier's defending is as bad. You're right. Both of them just stopped defending for a moment. And I think he's running away to try and start an attack because he's not even clocked Halliday whatsoever, and it's a good run. But that is, has he made a big defensive goal cost and blunder up until now? I don't think he has. He also responded pretty well. How many players have you seen in that position? Barisic, who they make a mistake early on in a game of that magnitude and they don't demand responsibility. Jeffrey's a fantastic save away from the goalkeeper, from volleying in a goal from 20 yards. He creates the two best opportunities in the first half down that left-hand side. So I'm keeping my Jeffrey stocks after yesterday.
You know what? I'll back you up on that, actually, because it's a great run by Halliday. It's a great blindside run. And he's bombing in there at pace, out of nowhere. And maybe there's an argument to say that's such a good penetrating run, it's always going to be difficult to pick up. I think, again, getting back to that word optics, because Hefty is running away from the ball, it makes it look calamitous.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. But do you reckon that Tavernier should have stopped the ball coming in the first instance? Is that where you're positioning this?
I thought so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it was Stevie and I talked about this a little bit after the game. If you look at the Motherwell game at Hampden earlier in the season, it wasn't that dissimilar with Tavernier not stopping across. On that day, I think he had more of a defence. Robin Proper scored no goal off the back of it. It was further away. I think on this occasion he was just too slow to get out, and maybe Chefty's anticipating that because of the how close Tavernier is to the attacker, that he'll be able to stop it as well. It's a really good ball, a really good run. Of course, in that moment, Shefty does not defend it well whatsoever, but I think it's just a bad combination. And as you say, Derek, Butland definitely. He's not one to actually, when Rangers concede a goal, I think watching him, he's not someone who goes mental that often, but he really took it out in his defence yesterday.
Yeah.
Right. That's the question. Does he look, do you know, his legs haven't gone that much, surely. I think there's something else going on.
Tavernier?
Yeah, just
I think it's a bit of both, Jonny. I think he
doesn't look happy. His body language is not what it normally is.
No. That's why he needs brought out the firing line. I thought in the summertime, him and Goldson, it was at the right time to move both on. I was surprised. I went down to that Birmingham pre-season game and I was shocked to see him start the game, to be honest. And he's pretty much been an ever-present in the team since then. So, listen, I think the manager made the right call yesterday in removing him. It will be interesting to see if he plays on Thursday night. I imagine he would. But I would have him as a bit part player now, as a squad player. He's not producing for Rangers. Offensively, you could always say offensively he's producing numbers. He's not even doing that. Has he scored one penalty this season?
He's certainly not scored many goals.
No.
The one thing I keep hearing, though, is that people saying, his legs have gone. But you look at that game, it wasn't about legs. He gave the ball away 5 or 6 times in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was painful to watch. He's not. Tavernier's never really been a confidence player. You know, he's always been able to play through bad moments.
Yeah.
Maybe it's compounded because it's been basically a year or nearly a year where he's been out of form. But he just doesn't have that same kind of, I think, positive attitude of like, okay, reset and when we go again. It's almost like these mistakes are compounding and becoming a sort of problem for him. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't look like a happy camper. So when you've got a captain like that, that's going to bleed through to the rest of the team. And I think Dujon Sterling has to start for me if he possibly can. And Clement needs to try and get these younger guys into the team more often, because it certainly gave an indication of what the team could be. I know it was Motherwell, but Motherwell are the 4th best team in Scotland at the moment. Second half.
Yeah, a lot of Motherwell fans not happy with, we're talking about Clement's substitutions. They're not happy with Kettlewell's substitutions in that second half. They felt they had Rangers on the back foot a little bit, and he never made it the right calls with regards to that. This is an interesting point I wanted to bring up. I want to see Nadim Bayrami at number 10, Joshua. I'm sure he wants to play at number 10. Incidentally, I'll just play a little clip of him. This is what you spoke to you in the mix zone. This is Bayrami talking about that second half reaction.
A reaction, and how I told before, we are all behind him. We believe in him, and we show today good second half.
Yeah, can't argue with that. But Scott with the point says, Ridvan is back soon. Stick Jefty at left mid until Cortez comes back. Is that a shout that could maybe see Bayrami move from that left-hand side in the middle? Jefty has played there before. Is that something you'd perhaps look to do?
I don't think that, if we're talking about Dujon Sterling, I don't think moving players around has necessarily helped Rangers when they've been playing well in one certain position. So I'd be in favour, for example, of keeping Sterling there, keeping him in the position where he was signed to play, where Rangers think he has the highest ceiling, the highest potential to potentially go and become a Premier League player in that position, where he came through at Chelsea and was really highly rated, and then use Casemiro as your de facto centre-back or left-back at points if you have to. You don't owe as much of a development, not pathway, but he's a lone player with obviously the option to buy, and he's maybe used to throughout his career moving across a number of different positions. So allow him to maybe be what Sterling was last season and play Sterling at right back, especially going into that game against Maeda, where Maeda presumably playing the left wing. We've seen it enough times to probably suggest Rangers should do something different there. Then on the left-hand side, when Bayrami has space, and you saw this up at Aberdeen as well, he can cut inside onto his right foot, and Chefty gives you the overlapping option, so it can work quite well. obviously the number 10 position would suit him more because it would give him the freedom to still move off the left but move into a variety of different positions and rotate into different areas. If you're playing a transitional game, I think he's fine out there. But when you saw this at Aberdeen as well, when teams know that they double up on him, maybe even though that materialised for the goal he scored against Aberdeen, he really doesn't want to go down the line onto his left foot. So he's done well for me out there, even though he's not an out and out left winger. You've obviously got Hadji as well, who I expect will play a little bit more football coming up. To I think it was Scott's point, in games at Ibrox, I don't think you need to do that, because Chefty should naturally play as your left winger and should naturally be high and wide anyway, because Rangers will have the territory. But if you're looking at those big games, Tottenham at Ibrox, I think it's Aberdeen at Ibrox and Celtic at Hampden, and within the space of a week, will Ridvan be fit for those games? Will he be ready? I don't know. I agree that if you're looking at those 3 games in isolation, what Jonny's saying, you need as many young players, as many players who are going to win their duels and dominate big spaces as possible. And certainly Chefty and Ridvan and Barami in the number 10 would give you that a little bit more than Lawrence does at number 10 with Barami left and Chefty at left back. But I'm generally not in favour of moving a player who has played well, and Chefty has played well in difficult circumstances. At 20 years old, at left back, bar that defensive moment yesterday, generally I'm not in favour of that.
Just a reminder, folks, many of you are tuning into the morning briefing. If you've not hit that subscribe button, if you hit it, then hit the notification bell. It means you'll never miss a show when we go live. And it's not just the morning briefing we have on the channel. We've got loads more. Joshua and Stevie were at Hampden yesterday, bringing you all the reaction from that game. There's press conferences on there. And there'll be a chat later on today that will be released to you guys tomorrow. Those of you that are Rangers Review Extra members, I will be speaking to an Olympiacos podcaster this afternoon. So one to keep your eyes peeled for. This comment, thank you to Burns for the donation. First of all, buddy, it says, Hadji should have come on for Tom. Perfect chance for him. Sterling over Tav and Dessers just isn't enough quality for us. I see the change. Why can't Phil? Well, we've seen it in the second half. I brought on Diamandi, of course, for Tom Lawrence. Just Rangers' luck, Jonny, that Lawrence got injured taking a shot, as happened to Ridvan earlier in the season. Leon Balogun also went off injured as well. But ahead of Thursday, Diamandi is probably the most likely to come in and replace Tom Lawrence, you'd imagine. I thought he did reasonably well when he came on. He's someone, like you say, hasn't really set the heather alight this season. I was expecting a lot more from him. What do you think that the issue is with him, and how can Rangers get the best out of him?
Listen, I think he was a player that was brought in, someone who could affect the team now, but has a ceiling that means he can improve over time. He's got those lovely hips, doesn't he? He can slalom his way in and out of situations, and you see the talent there with Diamandi. I'm just not really sure he's impacting games enough. I think when you pay £4.3 million for a player in Scotland, you're expecting they're going to come in and have an impact. And okay, you've got to bring in players that have got a ceiling. You've got to kind of players that are going to maybe take a little bit of time to adapt. You've got to show a bit of patience. But for me, Diamandi's actually not hit the heights of the performances that he showed when he first came in, which were really, really promising. Got a couple of really important goals. And I think maybe this season he's kind of slightly regressed.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's true of the team. It's not easy for him. He's not coming into a team that's already functioning, that's firing on all cylinders, that allows him to quietly, get up to speed. But I think I would like to have seen a little bit more so far, given the money that was paid. I think if it had been $2 million we were talking about, then I'd be pretty comfortable with Diamandi where he is. But I think at 4.3, I think there's still a big question mark over that transfer, given the funds that Rangers have and the size of that particular transfer. I think it's the right idea in terms of going out and getting someone who can become a better player as time goes on, who's got plenty of scope to improve, who is at a good age. But there needs to be a balance, and I'm not quite sure he's hit it yet. I think probably Josh will disagree, but I just think they need to find out what his best position is. Maybe it's 10. I think probably it's an 8, but it's whether or not there is that position in this formation that Clement plays.
He was scouted as a number 8. That's where his kind of highest ceiling was identified as. And if you look at the game yesterday, he's coming on more as a number 8 than a number 10. Rangers are playing more of a 4-3-3 in their midfield. You see that for Connor Barron's run, for example, in the lead up to the equalising goal. You know, he's not sitting alongside Nico Raskin. The idea is that the right back comes in and offers a little bit of support. The left back goes high and wide around the left winger who moves in field, and then you've got your 2 number 8 supporting on either side. And you saw that with Diomande in the second half. He was more active on the left-hand side of the pitch than the right. Now, I agree. I don't think he's been great this season. When he came into the club, he started pretty well, hit the ground running. Benfica away is a performance that stands out as a game that shows that he could compete technically with an excellent midfield, the likes of João Neves on that day, who's obviously subsequently went to PSG, hasn't he? This season, for a number of reasons, I agree. We've spoke about it before, Derek, but I often felt when he's playing in that position that Connor Barron is now playing in, he's doing a lot of selfless running for the team, a lot of stretching the play, and because he's playing in a team that has a lot of the ball, but I don't think he's playing in a brilliant possession team. I don't know if that always gets the best out of him, and maybe he's not just quite at that age where, as a 22-year-old, although he's experienced, he's got enough at this moment in time to raise the level around him, as opposed to just worrying about raising his own level. I don't know. It was certainly a move that internally Rangers felt was a really good price for that player. And normally, if you're going to go and get a player who's 22 years old, or I think he was 22 at the time, who's really shone in that league, he's going to cost you more money. Obviously, took him from FC Northland for about 4.3 or 4.5 million, and that money was paid in the summer. Maybe again over the next wee while, that midfield is Barron, Raskin, and Diomande. If you've got the likes of Bayrami and Jonny who are going to move in field ahead of them, then that takes a little bit of the creative burden off. If you've got maybe Chefty and Sterling on either side, but I agree with Jonny. I think there's more to come from him. I don't think it's as simple as he's been bad. The environment that he's been playing within probably hasn't been best suited to his capabilities, but we've not seen the level and the sustained level that he showed over his first month, say, when he came to the club last January.
Yep. Positives, of course, Václav Černý, Jonny, ever since that miss against Lyon, he really has improved a great deal. Again, instrumental yesterday in second goal. He provided an assist. He set up a good interplay with Connor Barron for Rangers' first goal. And it looks a real threat for Rangers out on that right-hand side just now. So that is a plus point. Good to see him back. Rangers really missed him at Pataudry on Wednesday night, but you can see his quality yesterday that he brings to the team.
Yeah, I think 15 appearances, 6 goals, 3 assists. That's pretty good going, isn't it?
Yeah.
And certainly the kind of output that you would want from a guy coming in on loan to make an impact. And I think he's done that. It's still early days. You don't want to make judgment calls, but if he keeps his form up, then I think he's probably someone Rangers would want to keep hold of. It's that mentality, Derek, that you've just kind of outlined, the ability to bounce back. I thought he really, really did stand tall as a senior player when Tavernier went off the pitch. He was demanding the ball. He was cajoling the younger players around him. He was doing everything that you would want to see from a guy with the level of experience he has. And it's not often you see a winger impose themselves on a game like that. And that was impressive to see. So absolutely, I really like the look of Černý. I think he brings a lot to the table. He's got that Ian Robin thing where you know what he's going to do, but you can't quite stop it in terms of cutting in on the left. But I think he's also got the ability to beat a man, and he does it quite often, especially in tight spaces. You saw him bursting in the box a few times and just gliding past people. And yeah, that's not something that we've seen too often at Rangers over the last few years for some reason or another. And bring it on. I love to see a flying winger, and I think Černy's got something about him. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, totally agree. And the two midfielders as well, Joshua, other positives, Connor Barron and Nico Raskin, certainly creating a good partnership between the pair of them. Again, I thought Barron was excellent yesterday. For me, he's been the signing of the summer. I know you're a Jeffy fanboy yourself. He has been good, but Barron for me was great yesterday, and I think he's been terrific in the main for Rangers this season. I don't didn't envisage him playing as many minutes as he has done. But I like those two at the base of the midfield.
Yeah, and I prefer it when it's Barron who's the higher one as opposed to Raskin. I think Rangers look better when Raskin's at the base of midfield, and it's good to see him get a run in the team because it's for a long time it felt as though that wouldn't be the case, and he might not ever recover the momentum that he had early on. But Barron, I think he has the ability and the quality to kind of, and you see this with his run and the fact that he creates the equalising goal for Rangers. He seems to respond in the right way. He seems to carry the ability carry the mentality to play for a club where the pressure is so intense and respond, on the pitch with his actions. Supporters seem to love. They do love a player like Barron because he's pretty blood and thunder, and he runs so much and makes big tackles, but he just also keeps going and, as I say, responds in the right way. So for me, they're again good examples of two players who have a lot of legs, who could run all day, who are small but in physical stature, but can cover big spaces. That's probably the partnership that Clement will continue with, and I'd be inclined to see him go for Raskin with Diomande and Barron as your two number 8s. If it's Bayrami and Dessers for the moment, then Bayrami playing narrow, Chefty high and wide, Sterling on the right, Cherney playing as close to the striker as possible, because you see, as an attacker, he wants to move and field, doesn't he? He doesn't want to stay stuck by the touchline, and he's actually got a really good pass when he cuts and field on his left foot as well. So that's maybe the team that I'd be inclined to go with going forward. If Rangers have a stronger start in 11, it's going to be intriguing to see what Clement does in midweek in the Europa League. I suspect that Tavernier and Dessers might well both start because Danilo obviously isn't in the European squad, and it's a European game, so maybe that means that Clement will be inclined to play as captain as well. Maybe we should give a little bit more attention or due diligence to what team he picks against Hearts, though, when Rangers play them in the Scottish Premiership next Sunday, because obviously Danilo will have had another full week of training. I believe there's a B team game as well, and Dujon Sterling, if he does not start against Olympiacos, surely has to then go and start against Hearts at Ibrox.
Yes, absolutely. And the back four, Jonny, I mean, Balogun came off a bit of cramp, it looks like, but would you be inclined to start Narejo Cashinwirjo at centre-back alongside John Souttar?
It's not even a decision for me now, Derek. I thought he was excellent when he came on. He's got that power, and he's not really put a foot wrong, has he? He's always impressed when he's come on. So, well, listen, actually, I'll take that back. The moment when he turned his back on the shot at Aberdeen wasn't great, but generally, he's been good. And I would say that he has now got to be in that position. Now, Leon Balogun, I wouldn't be throwing the baby out of the bathwater. I still think Leon Balogun's got a big part to play going forward. It depends on whatever injury he's got. Derek, he's played 4 games in 2 weeks, which, given his injury profile and given his age, is probably always going to result in some sort of knock.
I think it was just cramp, though. Just cramp. He had at the end of the game, yeah. 4 games in 2 weeks is a lot for him, as you say. Yeah.
So, but I'd like to see him given an opportunity there, that left centre back, Casemiro, and we'll see where it goes from there. Listen, the other thing I would say just about Robin Proper, and I think a lot of people have already written him off. I don't think there's a problem with Robin Proper in European games. I think he's an accomplished defender who uses the ball well. And when he's going up to playing Scotland, it's a different ball game because people are deliberately ruffling him up. They're targeting him. They're using his lack of physicality against him. I don't think you're going to see that in Greece. It'll be a much more thoughtful game where two teams are in a chess match. Sometimes one side's coming forward, sometimes the other side's going forward. And I think Proper could maybe come in for the European game with Casemiro held back and kept fresh for the challenges ahead domestically. Guys, just on that, I think this is quite important. I don't really care about Europe this year from a Rangers point of view. I don't think Rangers
domestically
care about Europe. Yeah. You've got these horrible games coming up against Spurs in particular and Manchester United. I just honestly think that the Europa League, there's been too much focus put on it in the last few years. I think it's important to get there, but you don't want to see embarrassments happening once you get there. But Rangers have to focus on the domestic front for the next couple of years. You know, their reputation in Europe has been re-established. And I would think you've got to look at almost like trying things in Europe, changing players for Europe, and keeping the best team for the domestic games. So, for example, in December, in the same week, Rangers play Spurs and then Celtic in the cup final.
And then it's Aberdeen after that.
I'd be looking to almost just abandon that Spurs game and play not the youth team. That would be silly, but keep it very much not the main guys, because let me tell you, it doesn't matter who Rangers play; they're going to get spanked in that game.
Well, the issue is a lot of Rangers fans have spent a lot of money to go to that game. They're not going to be too impressed.
You want to get beat 4-5-0 and then going against Celtic?
I don't think that's a given. Rangers getting beat 4 or 5-0, John. I don't think we're going in there, and I don't think they're going to be like lambs to the slaughter there. I think
against Spurs. I think that's a really difficult game. Spurs put 4.
It's a difficult game. Yeah, the Spurs are.
I watched Spurs yesterday. They put 4 past Aston Villa. They're a right good team on their day, and I think they will be keen to come to town and put on a show there. I think that's a really difficult game, and the timing of it is really difficult. And listen, you tell me how you'd manage it. I don't know.
Say you play a weakened team, Jonny, and you get beat 7. That's not going to do anybody any good, is it?
But you just say, well, it's a weakened team. We played a deliberately weakened team because
I don't think that would. Joshua, what do you think?
It's a bold PR strategy. I would say, yeah. I mean, obviously so what is it? It's Spurs on the Thursday, the Celtic on the Sunday in the cup final.
Yeah.
The 2 biggest games for Clement coming up are undoubtedly, he's got Celtic at Hampden, he's got Celtic at Ibrox within the space of 3 weeks. Needs to win one of them. Absolutely needs to win one of them. I agree with Jonny there. The focus. I think Rangers probably have a big enough squad. Listen, I wouldn't be playing Robin proper against Spurs because of the pace that they carry in attack. I agree in certain games. I don't think he's as bad as some people have been making out. I don't think physicality is his strength. And I think Casemiro, he's played at centre-back throughout his career, and he's also really accomplished on the ball. That shouldn't be forgotten. He's a product of the Ajax Youth Academy, and he gives you I think alongside Proper, you probably need someone with a bit of pace if you are going to play him. So the squad probably needs to be in a bit of a stronger position for that week against Spurs. European games, I agree with Jonny in principle that they're even if Rangers win well, because it's been done in recent years, the focus will be on how do they do domestically. I don't really think that. I think Spurs is going to be difficult enough for Rangers, even if they play their strongest team. They're going to have to be clever about how they rotate it because the Celtic game is bigger. I'd be surprised if you see Tavernier and Dessers play for 90 minutes against Spurs off the back of our conversation today. Put it that way.
We know for a fact that Clement bases his squad selections on what his sports science team are saying to him. He's said that many times. So that's my point. It's not about throwing in 9 youth players against Spurs. That would be obviously madness. What I'm trying to get across on that Spurs point was simply you want to keep players fresh for those Celtic and Aberdeen games. Those are what are the most important. And if you're going to get in a situation whereby someone can't play according to the sports science team because they've had too many minutes in their legs because they played against Spurs, that to me makes no sense whatsoever. And you have to absolutely prioritise those 2 massive domestic games.
Just looking at Spurs' results in the Europa League, they beat Karabag 3-0 at home. They narrowly... What's that?
They've won all the games.
Yeah, but they narrowly beat Ferencvaros by 2-1 away, and then beat AZ Alkmaar by 1-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So they're not exactly blowing teams away by any matter of means. Someone asked, who do they play after Rangers? They go to... Just having a look here. Who do they play at? Hoffenheim over in Germany is who they play after Rangers. So, but in terms of Premier League, they play Tottenham. Southampton away. Southampton.
That would be a surprise, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Tottenham played Tottenham. Away to Southampton, after Rangers. So, and then they've got the EFL.
Easiest game they could possibly get in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Yeah, Russell Martin's mob. Yeah, they're in a bit of bother, aren't they? So, yeah, that game is a long way away. Domestically, low Rangers need to get their house in order. Just need to look at the league table to see where the problems lie. And even if Rangers win on Thursday night, that does not change a thing for Philip Clement. He's a man under pressure. He needs victories and performances as well. And we've certainly seen in that second half little shoots perhaps of optimism of what Rangers can do if he makes the big calls and drops certain players. But we'll wrap up there for now. Big thank you to Joshua and to Jonny as ever. Reminder as well, folks, if you are watching us, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, you'll never miss a video when we go live. Just hit that notification bell as well. A heads up, as I touched on, I will be speaking to an Olympiacos podcaster around about 2:45. We'll be going live on the Rangers Review Extra channel. So if you want to join us there, if you haven't signed up already, hit the join button on the homepage of the site. And yeah, you can join us to learn more about Rangers' upcoming Europa League opponents. You're heading out there, Joshua, to Athens. Looking forward to it.
Yes, yeah, never been. So looking forward to it, and looking forward to hearing a little bit more about Olympiacos, because I've not watched much of them up until today. No. So I will be tuning in alongside many others, and they obviously, they won the Conference League last season, didn't they? So I think it's going to be a pretty difficult game for Rangers. With that said, you still hold more confidence of Rangers heading into a difficult European away game than you do when they head to Pataudry, for example. So yeah, who knows what result they will get, but we will have lots and lots of extra coverage as ever. So yeah, as you say, a reminder to subscribe to the YouTube channel and the website as well.
Yeah, class. Jonny, you want to jump in there?
I was going to say, it's pretty impressive we got through 40 minutes talking about yesterday's game and we didn't focus on Cyril Dessers at any point. But probably for the best.
Yeah, well, we touched on more so on what Danilo brings, which he doesn't. And I think it's there for all to see. But yeah, I imagine he would, like you say, Josh, I imagine he would start on Thursday, given Danilo not part of the European setup. But yeah, we'll discuss that game in great detail as we head towards Thursday. Right, enjoy your Monday, folks. If we don't speak to you, bye for now.